Where do you come from? Another galaxy.
We just want to talk about recounting our trip to GDC and do a kind of holistic review of the experience as a whole. We planned this just out of the blue. David Logan from Occupier Games was like, obviously they're in LA. They're going to GDC. He's a bigwig. And he was like, hey, I've got a hotel room that you guys can just stay in.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It was so nice.
The perfect excuse to go to GDC. So we both applied for our respective states grants to travel grants, and Rob got it and I didn't, which sucked.
Yep. I'm objectively a better dev apparently. Thank you, WA government. We thought, why don't we go to Yosemite?
Oh no!
While we're going to California, because it's right around the corner. It's literally in the same state.
Literally the same state. Terrible idea. GDC is like right at the end of when Yosemite opens, or when it starts to open, and it snowed in, so we didn't get to go. We spent a week just dicking around canceling hotel stuff, so that kind of sucked. We saw a lot of Chinatown though, which was pretty fun.
Yeah, Chinatown was awesome. That was very cool. Would definitely recommend going to Chinatown.
Definitely recommend it. I'd say it's top 5 Chinatowns I've been to. Not as good as Bangkok, but better than Melbourne. How about that?
Can we go now? We went to a few museums. The Cable Car Museum was great.
Yeah, Cable Car Museum is free, and it's learning about the history of the cable car might sound really boring, but it's actually learning about the history of San Francisco, because this cable car has been there for so long. Sick.
Yeah, it is insane. Yeah, so we got that flavor of San Francisco in the museum, and then we also got the flavor of San Francisco walking down the street every 10 seconds from people smoking gigantic joints.
It's kind of ruining the vibe in San Francisco. Every now and then is fine, but it's literally every street corner. And I think the problem isn't weed, it's vaping, because people can just a little one, just every street corner.
Yeah, the constant vaping. It's big over there.
Infuriating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost as big as the pies that we got.
Almost as big as the pies. Yeah. So we got, I have a friend from Texas, and she was like, you got to get a pie while you're there. So we went to a place, what was it called?
Three Babes.
Three Babes. That was it. That was sick. I really enjoyed eating the pie, and you really enjoyed eating something else.
Yeah, I got some edibles, some weed edibles, because why not? When in Rome. That was pretty good. And I told Oscar to buy a children's book anthology, and then completely forgot about it. And he was like, oh, I bought that book the next day. And I was like, what are you talking about? But yeah, that was good.
But one thing that would have been sick to be on drugs for was Audium, which was experience. It's like a theater, but it's just this completely black room with this amazing speaker setup. I really recommend going there if you're a game dev or an audio person, you like kind of music.
Oh, Sharmy, this is so cool.
There's a lot of cool music stuff in San Francisco. I think last time I went, there was a lot of cool gigs. We didn't go any this time, but we did go to Amoeba Records, which is a famous record store there, and managed to find a lot of cool niche records. That was really exciting. We went to the MoMA Gallery, which is the Museum of Modern Art, and that was very, very cool.
We had a lot of discussions about game design in that gallery. It was really fun.
I don't have Uno, so go fuck off. Everyone has Uno, dipshit.
Speaking of walking, we spent a lot of time walking and standing, waiting for our GDC pass.
That was the first big fail of the organization of GDC 2023. And look, this was absurd. I'm sure there's some footage of me walking to the back of the line from the front.
Yeah.
Because we had to get our passes the next day, and you missed a talk you really wanted to go to.
One of the talks I wanted to go to was the first time slot of the first day. So we were going to go the day before to get our pass, but they ran out of passes. So that was an interesting experience.
Hey.
Oh my god, how are you going?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good to see you. Oh, you got your pass. Congratulations.
The irony being that it was easier to get into parties at GDC than it was to get into GDC.
Yeah, do you remember that first party we went to in the warehouse? I think that's where we met David.
Yeah, we had a really great chat with David at the party, like this weird experience, like meeting someone for the first time, like you were meeting for the first time.
Yeah, it was crazy. I've spoken to him so many times over the internet, but yeah, meeting him was great, obviously. And just like,
sorry, I don't know if we mentioned like David Logan, CEO of Archipara Games, who published our game. Going to the parties, I think, is part of like the GDC experience that people, when they're like fondly remembering GDC, I don't think people are like, I loved going and like pitching to 500 different publishers, and like, no, they're like, I loved going and drinking with a whole bunch of game devs and making friends and stuff. Like we only talked to Australians and then David.
yeah.
Really
we did
weird.
meet that guy from who was trying to hack the Chinese firewall.
Yeah, and airdrop stuff into North Korea. That was sick. We had our game shown in
a nightclub. Yes,
yeah, it
that's
was
right.
in a nightclub with all these creepy clowns and stuff. I didn't get any footage of that. We met Sam Eng, who did
Skate Story. Yeah, I was nerding out with him about skate games, and
yeah, I led him down a dark alley. We'll just leave that. Like, people, if people don't know the story, they don't know the story. Day one of GDC, lined up, got our pass, and then you had like the full pass. So we should talk about this. So like GDC has like a bunch of different passes. They have like, and they have like early bird things where it's like it's cheaper if you buy it like a year in advance by like a substantial amount, right?
Yeah.
And then they have like 3 different tiers. One is just sort of like you can get in Expo Pass and you can get onto the show floor where people are showing their games. And it's not like E3 showing games where it's like there's big games or anything. There's a bunch of like indie, student-y stuff, and then like every country sort of has like a delegation, I guess. So it was like Switzerland, I think. I remember Italy and Brazil. I played a bunch of Brazilian games. Like shout out to hitting way above their weight is Brazil, right? But yeah, anyway, so there's Expo Pass, which is what I got because I didn't have the money for anything else. Then there's like a mid-tier one, which is sort of like you can go to some talks but not others. And then there's like the big boy pass, which is what you got.
Yeah, full access or something. I can't remember, but it meant I could go to a bunch of talks on the first few days, and that was really cool.
It was cool, but like if you hadn't gotten the grant for this trip, it is not worth that amount of money.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of money. Yeah, especially with a lot of talks being available online. If you're going for talks, I would recommend just checking out YouTube.
So I couldn't get into those. There's a bunch of talks that are just sort of free to anyone with any pass. A bunch of them are like sponsored talks, and a bunch of the sponsored talks were sponsored by crypto companies. So that was like awesome. Rob would be like, hey, I really want to go to this fun marketing talk. Sorry, you can't come. Oh, there's a bunch of free ones. And I'd look it up and it was just like, the metaverse is going to change your crypto Axie Infinity subscription.
Yeah, so good. I think the metaverse had just like folded like a month before this, and also there was so many NFT things. It was amazing.
Because I feel like in game dev, we're very like, in indie dev, everyone's like, oh, crypto, blah, 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 blah. And then like, you forget that GDC is for like the whole industry. So it's like crypto is just like where all this money is coming from. There's all the VC there, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like these banners just being like, are you ready for the crypto revolution? I'm like,
I remember you told me that story about that guy approaching you in the toilet.
yeah. So I'm like at the urinal, right? Like we've stopped talking, and then he sort of like leans over and he's just like, so you into crypto? Do you do crypto gaming or whatever? I'm like, dude.
Yeah, he gets you when you're most vulnerable, you know? So all that stuff was a bit of a bummer. But there was this section upstairs called Day of the Devs, which I think, is that put on by Double Fine?
Yeah.
That's actually the reason why we were at GDC. David had a game there from Akupara, and we were kind of hanging around and talking to people about the game.
What was it called again?
Crypt Master?
I was testing you. You got it right.
Oh, it was called Crypt Master? It's awesome. It looks so good.
This one was like a really nice mix of like, it was like pretty high profile indie games, but it had like Animal Well, which is by Big Mode, Donkey's new publishing label.
Yeah, published by them, yeah.
But it also had is it Mina the Hollower or whatever it is, the like yacht club game. Yeah, it was really cool. Andy, shout out Andy Brophy, Knuckle Sandwich was there as well.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, he was in good company there. So many good games. Day of the Devs area was the best place to meet devs. I found like there was so many people, like from generally it's kind of hard to meet actual devs, I would say. But there it seemed like it was a complete mix of people there, and you never know who you'd get talking to. I had a lot of really good conversations there.
We chatted to guys from Blizzard, from Wizards of the Coast, yeah, and then guys from just like smaller like indie studios and stuff. And I guess it was good for us because we had a game that we were watching, like we were looking after Cryptmaster, so
yeah, it was a good in for us.
So it's one thing that I just want to address. I remember people saying like, you know, don't read people's like name tags. It's like weird and creepy or whatever. And I'm like, no, that's literally what they're there for. If someone can enlighten me in the comments or on socials about why I shouldn't be like, oh, you work at this company, and that's like an icebreaker. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Pretty normal to me.
Yeah. It was really handy. I kind of wish people just had name tags in real life so I could have something to talk to them about.
Something I just wanted to quickly touch on, a lot of students and stuff, it's got to be like the hardest thing to do, I think, to like network at these events, because like the best networking is just hanging out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I think we sort of like proved that to ourselves, like chatting the people that we really like networked with the people we just had like real good personal connections with.
And not approaching it like, what can I get out of this person? You know, that's always going to be a little bit shit. So yeah, just try to have a good conversation with someone like you would in real life, you know?
We should probably talk about some talks as well.
Yeah. So I saw a couple of good ones. There was a really good one about the design philosophy of the game Unpacking, which was an Australian game that came out last year. Ren Breyer gave the talk. That was super good. If it's on YouTube, I'd recommend checking that out. There was also another talk I saw. I should have looked up the name of this, but it was something about game mechanics to steal from tabletop role-playing games. And I think that's just such a great talk because I'm really big into tabletop role-playing games, and the guy who gave it is totally right. There's a lot of interesting mechanics people think about that relate to thematics, tying in thematics and mechanics. I think Disco Elysium is the first big video game that kind of has touched on this stuff. So it'd be interesting to see what happens over the next few years with that.
Yeah, sounds cool.
If I find I'll look for a link and I'll send it to you, and we can put it in the description of the podcast if it's up on YouTube.
There's Australia meetups. There was one early in the week. There was a Discord server as well, which was really cool. So if you're going to GDC, there's probably a Discord server with a bunch of people from your country chatting and talking shit. So check it out. Ask around if that's the case.
Yeah, it made it a lot easier for us.
Oh, yeah. People telling us like, hey, don't bother lining up. You're not going to get a pass.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the Australia meetups, there's one at kind of the beginning of the week and one at the end of the week. Yeah, they were the best catered events.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, it's funny because you think like, oh, I don't want to just meet all the people I normally meet. But like in that setting where everyone's like very in like, well, I want to get my money's worth and talk to a bunch of people. Everyone was like really like talking to a bunch of people that we didn't meet normally. We met a bunch of guys from like Queensland that we just like never see over here.
Yep.
And we met like a bunch of guys who are from like Melbourne, where I'm from, right? And like they would like, oh, we've never bumped into you. And I'm like, do you go to any local events in Melbourne? They're like, well, no. I'm like, that's why we don't meet each other.
I felt the same about WA devs. There was some WA devs, but I'm pretty bad at going to local events. But yeah, I met a lot of WA devs there who I hadn't met before. West Australian devs, I should say.
I think it's on Wednesday it starts. There's like the show floor or whatever.
Yeah, the expo floor.
Briefly touched on this before. Alt Control GDC is easily my favorite part of the show floor. I think it was like really, really awesome. Like normally, what is it? Like student games?
Yep.
Dog shit. But we went to Alt Control GDC and we're like, wow, these games are all like really, really well made, like professional projects. Like, and we were just like, man, how are they gonna sell this game? Like, we asked a couple and they were all student devs, and that's why they were doing weird controllers. It's like, well, this isn't a commercial project. And I'm like, wow, I don't know how they did that.
Just making cool stuff for the sake of making cool stuff. You love to see it. One of my favorites was this game where you were luring a cat around with a fishing rod, and the fishing rod had an electromagnet on the bottom of it. So when the cat grabbed the lure, the fishing rod you were holding would physically get pulled down with the electromagnet. And it was just so cool. That's such a great idea. I think they were using a Wiimote as well for the motion, which is a great throwback.
That's awesome. I really liked that whole area.
Yeah.
I think it was on a Friday and we went there and I had like David's pass like around my neck. Like his GDC pass. Because David got COVID. Yeah, I was like talking to all these developers with this like David Logan, CEO of publisher Occupara Games, and they were all just like really pitching to me, and I was like, realized after I had like expended all their energy on me, I was like,
yeah. You get to really see the quality of some people. Like, man, some people's pitches were amazing. I was like, man, you got to teach me how to pitch, and you're like a student, you know, like you've already got this stuff down.
So I just mentioned it. Yeah, David got COVID.
Oh no,
we tested fine. Like, I got it.
I dodged it. I got a vaccine like a couple of weeks before, and I reckon that might have been what kept me safe.
But you know, like, I mean, that's another thing is like you go to these big things and it's like you're gonna get sick. You're around
so many lecture rooms I was in, just packed wall to wall. You could physically feel the body heat, and it was like making me nervous.
Oh man, the parties, like, I mean, yeah, we went to that one party and it was like a mosh pit, and there were people, like, that was the best party I've ever been to in my entire life.
Oh yeah, that was amazing.
The Game Jolt, shout out to David DeCarmine and Yupruk DeCarmine for putting that party on.
Yeah, that
was kind of GDC. I think, you know, like I said, this is a holistic review. We're not going to give it a score or anything, but I think a general yay or nay at the end would be good. Nah.
See, I feel like I'm writing that Steam review where it's like, I wish Steam had a maybe button. It's hard to say like yes or no.
No, I'm the guy who 173 hours played. Shit. That's my Steam review. Yeah, no. Yeah, if it wasn't like a 17-hour flight, you know, if it didn't cost me thousands of dollars, sure.
That's the thing, right? Yeah, it's hard to say. I think if you have something to pitch and you meet up with a bunch of publishers and you want to talk about funding and stuff, it's perfect for that. If you're there to network and stuff and you don't have a super clear game plan, it's maybe not so good.
If you don't have a David Logan as well organizing your social calendar.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
In terms of relevancy, GDC will probably always be relevant. You can't, you know, the point of it is so that a bunch of people who don't meet get to meet up once a year. You know, there's still relevancy compared to E3, which is just not.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, look, if you're a young student, you just want to like go and like don't do it, you know.
Especially if you're strapped for cash. It's quite expensive.
If you can, I think you can just buy access to the vault and watch talks. If you want to watch talks, watch them. Don't go to GDC, right? Like, if you just want to watch talks, you're almost better off buying a ticket to GDC, not going and just getting access to those talks recorded later.
Yeah,
you know, because it's going to cost you money. And it's like, if you are not interested in the social element of social casual networking, then yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hopefully this has given a bit of insight into what it's actually like to go to GDC. I personally had no idea before I went. And yeah, hopefully it can help you make up your mind if you're ever in the position of wanting to go.
Thanks, everyone. I hope this was super informative.
Yeah, thanks. Let us know what you thought about it in the comments. All right, thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Wait. Can we go now?